Welcome, Chris, to Metallarium Pages. Again, it's a tremendous pleasure to talk with you about internal bleeding. And now this new album settles of old scores and more
Mhm.
things related to the metal world in general. So we started by asking, how are you doing today, and how is the band during the last year? Because we had an interview last year.
I think it was last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
All is good, man. Very busy. Not just the band, but in our personal lives, we're all very busy. It's been a crazy 2024 and 2025 trying to get this album done and out. Has been crazy. It's been a lot of work. Um, and with everybody living in different parts of the country and the state, organizing everything and doing all that has been hectic. But the album's finally out, and we can take a little breath and relax and maybe enjoy watching fans enjoy the album and stuff like that, and take a breather and then move on and start playing shows again and get going again.
Okay. So, well, that the interview that we had, it was in 2023 now, 2 years ago.
Yeah, I
Two
think
years ago.
so, right?
Right, yep. So because you play at that moment in Mexico Metal Fest, I remember well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was fun.
great song. And this will return to the Mexico. How it was your experience to play for the first time in there in Monterrey, Mexico?
I had, other than the rain, I had such a great time. It was great to meet all the fans. It was great to speak to hundreds and hundreds of people, and we all found a really good taco spot that we went to every night and just pigged out on tacos. It was great. Just a great experience. I had a lot of fun. We were treated very well. The fans really treated us well. It was an experience of a lifetime.
Okay. So at that moment, I remember that you told me that this album, Settle All the Old Scores, was completely done at that moment. But and I remember, and now 2 years passed for that album. But for example, why do you delay these 2 years to release this album? Because you said, yeah,
Well,
you have a lot of complications.
when I said it was done, I said that meant it was written, and we
Okay.
threw out we threw out a lot of we threw out a lot of material and rewrote it.
Mm,
So it took a long time to rewrite stuff and reorganize stuff, and then just to get into the studio and the production process and timing everything. So,
mhm,
it's not, unfortunately, it's not like when you're 22 years old and you don't have to worry about taking off of work or taking vacation days or
mhm,
anything like that to arrange to get in the studio. You have to arrange flights. So everything just takes longer,
mhm.
unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. So then let's talk about more about these Settle Old Scores, because this album is like 7 years since your previous album, Co-Written Influence. You said
Yes.
it that you passed a lot of things, but perhaps there's another more reasons that this album delayed 7 years to release it compared to the previous one, because usually you take, for example, 4 years for the Corrupted Influence to Imperium, but from Onward to Mecca to Imperium you delayed 10 years.
That was a long, yeah, that was a long delay because the band went through a lot of stuff. We lost a lot of time. We lost after Corrupting Influence, we lost our vocalist and we lost our bass player. So we had to find new people. COVID hit, which really screwed everything up here as far as writing music and getting things done. So that's part of the delay. The other part of delay is we did a lot of touring.
Mhm.
And when you're touring, you're not writing or you're not recording. And we were kind of rebuilding our fan base and rebuilding our career. So we put the more of a focus on getting out and playing. We did a tour with Deicide, and
Mhm.
we went to Europe a few times. We did a lot of
Mhm.
stuff, and that put us in a good place to put out another album.
Mm. Okay.
So
So,
that's part of the reason why there's a delay.
oh, okay. I understand. So now, and this, I remember one of the in no, the last album, Corrupting Influence, was released under Unique Leaders Records at that moment,
Uh-huh.
and then you told me that you will at that moment you had an one album more contract with them, but now these Settle All Scores were released by Maggot Stomp, different labels. So what happened? Why you lean down
Um,
about contract with Unique Leader and now with Maggot Stomp?
as much as we all liked Unique Leader, it's a great label. We had a lot of support from them and they're good people. We didn't think they knew, we didn't think they really understood who we were as a band. And we really didn't think they understood our music. And they kind of lumped us in with every other band on their label.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we got kind of lost because they didn't understand how to promote us the
Mm-hmm.
right way. And they didn't know how to use social media the way I thought social media should be used. So I had a talk with Jamie, the label president, and I asked him, I told him all my concerns and I said, would you drop us, please? And he was a complete gentleman, a great guy, and he said, I disagree with you, but I never want to keep you keep a band on a label that doesn't want to be there. So he dropped us,
Okay.
and then we moved to Maggot Stomp, which we thought was the smart move.
Mm. Okay. Okay, I understand. Well, Unique Leader compared to Maggot's a little smaller than Unique. Unique's like a well-known label since the beginnings of
Oh
2000s.
yeah, 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 for sure. And they have better distribution and they have a lot of things going for them, but what they don't have is a strong marketing arm and a good understanding of how to market bands individually as opposed to just lumping them all together. And
Hmm.
at my age, I want to be able to, I want my vision for the band to be pushed through marketing as well as through the music, So it's one seamless thing, and Maggot Stomp understands that.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, okay. Now settle old scores is like 1 week older. Well, next tomorrow will be 1 week older than about this one, this album.
Yeah.
So and this one, how it was the reception in general for the fans, for the media, and more the things related with this.
I think this is one of our best received albums. I would
Mhm,
say if I put a percentage on it, I would say the reception is 95% positive.
mhm,
And the other 5% are people who want us to do things like release our first album over and over again,
mhm,
which I'm not going to do. Or they want us to do less of the dual vocals, or just small insignificant criticisms, at least in my view. So I don't care about that very much. I'm happy, and most people are happy, and the reception's been, like I said, this reception is way better than the corrupting influence reception has been. So
Yeah.
I'm very pleased.
Yeah, okay, okay, I understand. So now, and well, talking about the promotion about this new album, so what kind of promotion do you have now for settle old scores? More perhaps embark on tours there in US, return to Europe, or perhaps you will have here on the first Latin American tour, or who knows, Asia, who knows? What kind of plans you have
Yeah,
for
yeah. I,
internal
I I
gigging?
don't know. We have a lot of stuff in Europe coming in 2026.
Okay.
Um, since that's always kind of been a dream of mine is to do more Europe. So we're doing more Europe. And then we're doing some stuff in January, some stuff in March, and we'll see what happens if we get offers for other stuff. We'll entertain those offers and see where it goes.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Okay, one detail that I denoted, for example, this during the last 2 or 3 years is that now there's a retro movement of the bands with your sound, with the Pyrexa sounds, with the skinless sound, or with the embryonic death sound. I don't know. With that, I don't. I hear bands from Europe, here's but these bands not play brutal. Just these bands just play death metal but with your influence, with the slam stuff, with the groove stuff, or with the beat stuff, like Pyrexia did in the beginnings of the 90s. So now, how do you see now this like retro movement of the death metal? Because first we have the Swedish death metal around the world, then the Finland with incantation vibe, and now a lot of bands, especially from Canada and US, and some bands from Europe, are playing like 2000 Wombs and that. But these bands are completely fit with your sound with the 90s.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the reasons we did settle all scores the way we did is because we need to be one step ahead of all of them so
Mm,
that they can catch up and start copying that album.
mm,
I'm happy that our influence has spread so much. I mean, that's a real gratifying thing. So
mm,
I'm happy and humbled that people are taking a lot of influence from Internal Bleeding. That's great.
mhm. No, even when you hear even the label that you are on in at this moment, Maggot Stomp, have a lot of bands with your sound. That's a curious
Oh
thing.
yeah, 100%. I mean, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons we went to them because he understands. At least Scott under the owner of the label understands. He
Mm,
understands us. He's been a fan of ours since he was a kid in the '90s.
mm,
So he completely understands our band, our sound, how we want to present ourselves. This goes back to the when we were talking about unique leader. He gets it. And it's cool to be on that label because yeah, a lot of those bands that are on that label are influenced by us, which is
mm.
cool. So we're the elder statesmen of the label.
Yep, yeah. Okay, I understand for this. So now, other topic that captured my attention for this new album is the cover art, amazing one, and I think I will buy my T-shirt with that with that cover. So how do you relate all the things for the cover art? Because it's more like the massacres compared the title of the album. But I try to relate many things. So how do you relate the concept of the album, the cover art, the name of the album, and obviously with the brutal music
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
yeah.
put in?
Yeah, I understand. So the basic concept is I wanted something that was like you know what a graphic novel is?
Okay.
Like the Walking Dead is
Yep. Okay.
originally.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I wanted some kind of really dark graphic novel look. And basically, it's a guy who's settling scores, and there's those piles of bodies. Those are all the scores he settled, and he's heading off to settle even more scores. And that's kind of the concept. And
Mm,
we wanted it really over the top and very, very, very graphic novel looking. And I think it came out that way, so I'm pretty happy about it.
okay. 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 I understand.
It's definitely different for us, but we've never done we've always done what we want to do with album covers. So
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. But this one is like more, yes, more something related will Walking Dead cover, like this kind of cover, some related with this one. So now, well, there is a few bands like Plague Like You because Pyrexia becomes more brutal or more accelerated process. Then Embryonic Death's not longer anymore. Internal Bleedings continue with this album is continue the same situation. Skinless is not releasing an album since like 10 years now. And I remember one band is a little forgot, Scattered Remnants. That's forgot since the 1998. Other band that plays you like you, with your kind of sound of music. So how do you see this well that like a new revival that you have in your sound? And I saw the Scattered Remains play some shows in 2018.
yeah. But we just keep progressing musically. We challenge ourselves. Like this album is I think this album is really brutal and a super aggressive and way more aggressive than what we normally do.
Mhm.
And that's something we wanted to do to push our sound a little bit. And I'm happy that we did it. And who knows what the next album is going to be? It's whatever my mindset is going to be what the next album is going to be. There's always, whether people see it or not, there's always a progression of sorts that's going on in our music. We don't do the same. If you look back at our discography, every album sounds different.
Yep.
And that's what I like. I mean, you always can tell it's us, but every album sounds different, and that's how I like to keep it. I don't want to some bands they just put out the same sounding album over and over again, and that gets boring. I mean, I don't know, as a musician, I want to expand what I can do, and maybe push myself a little harder technically and things like that. And So I'm happy. Like I'm really happy with what we did and what we came out with, and it doesn't sound like the last album. It's like I said, it's more aggressive, but there's plenty of groovy riffs and slams and all the stuff you expect from us. So
Okay, okay, okay. Now let's talk about this. Well, when you played your kind of music since the beginnings of '90s, well, Pyrexia, you and another bands more like play this topic or like the beat. I remember well because that's the situation of all bands at that moment, especially for the New York area. Suffocation, the beat, internal bleeding, Pyrexia, etc. bands more. But now with this, with you bring a different kind of vibe into the brutal death metal, especially a different kind of techniques. Now, all bands sounds completely technical thanks to the death metal. That's a curious thing. The death metal brings this kind of topic, so technical, so fast, so etc. etc. Now, so what kind of opinion do you have for all the new, all the extreme metal sounds now? How's completely technical and completely clean. There's no bad records now like the 80s or like the
oh
90s.
yeah, I know that is the big, that's something that plagued our band forever was bad production.
Mhm.
Now it's hard to get bad production. The only way you get bad production now is you get sterile production that has no life to it. And
Mhm.
that's a problem, I think. I think some albums, especially albums that get very technical, are too clean and too processed sounding and don't sound natural. So you have to find the balance. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's great that you can get good production, but you can't go overboard with things. And you have to try to keep things natural.
Okay, okay. So now other topic that is right now completely attached to the new technology is because now the like the smaller bands are not playing like the old bands, like the with amps, with crowd, with no people involved of the sound. Just one person in charge of everything. You need to connect directly to the console. No more amps, no more effects. Mostly all guitars are playing with plugins in their laptop or now with the phones because the phones has a lot of capacity with this situation. So how do you see these new live presentations, especially for the producers because it's cheaper?
I don't like it at all. And maybe that's a function of my age, but I still haven't heard an amplifier modeler that sounds as good as a tube amp. I just haven't. Um, and I when I play live, I guess I want the rock and roll experience. I want the amplifiers. I want the plugs, the cords, the big cabinet with speakers in it, pushing sound out. I want all that stuff. And I think a lot of kids who are younger, who have grown up in this modern generation,
Mhm.
I think they like it. I think they like it and they don't really like fans. I think they like it and maybe they can't put their finger on why they like it, but I know they like it because it's a true, authentic live experience. It's not a processed live experience. It's authentic. We don't use click tracks. Our drummer doesn't wear in-ear monitors. None of us do. We fly by the seat of our pants. And if we make a mistake, we make a mistake and we change tempos constantly. And that's the beauty of a live show. And that if it ever got to the point where I was putting an earpiece and monitors and I stopped playing because
Hmm.
that's not a live experience anymore. That's just, I don't know. That's just like being in the recording studio, except there's people there. I don't want that.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, I understand completely, but now this is the new movement from all producers now in this situation.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
no, I know it is, but I'm gonna fight it as long as I can fight it.
well, yeah, in this kind of just the bigger bands now has this topic with amps, the crowd, just the bigger bands. But the medium and smaller bands need to take a look about this band because I saw one concert with a medium band, and the medium bands are using their plugins, no any more amps. For the producer is great because they invest
Yeah, they
less.
just plug in. Yeah, and that's that. And you don't have to mix. You don't have to do any work mixing anything. Or yeah, no, I hate it. I just really dislike it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about other things and one very closely in this interview, Chris. So all the time, New York is it was has it has had had a had a personal sound, especially into the death metal. If we talk about the brutal death, especially, I think one of the biggest bands is Suffocation from there. It created all this kind of topic of the brutal death metal stuff. Now, why always New York, the New York area was different from the whole country in US? Because even now until now, New York has a different bands like Imperial Triton, like Piron, and all the time this sounds is like it is like, for example, it's like Swedish has Gothenburg and has a different sound compared to another parts of this of their country. Now it is the same. When you talk about death metal, you talk about Florida, but all the time you will take a look. New York. New York has a personal sound, and especially extreme music in general, because black metal, no, but extreme music in general.
Yeah, for sure. And I attribute that to the culture of New York. I mean, there's so much. First of all, New York is very fast paced, very competitive, and very, survival of the fittest kind of thing. So there's that. But then New York is home to so much good music, not just metal, but like hip hop
Mhm,
and regular rock and all that stuff and all that all and even classic bands like Blue Oyster Cult and Billy Joel and all that and it all those bands have a pulse, a New York pulse to them that you can't recreate unless you're from New York. I really believe that. I've seen bands try to be very New York and they just can't do it. And I can put my finger on it because they don't have that swagger that New York people have,
mhm.
and that's just the way it is. I mean, it's a reflection of the culture here.
Okay, well, I understand about this one. Now, one of the last questions from this interview, Chris. If we are talking about for the like the for example, if we relate the topic for the slam brutal death metal or the bigger albums in that inspire a lot of bands, I know the first, for me, for the second album for Internal Bleeding is a great milestone for me into the brutal death, slam deathcore, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And now for you, as you were there with all your bands and more things, so for you, which are the albums that changed this or influence a lot of bands now for you?
Uh, our second album is I think a very influential album.
Hmm.
Like you said, it's one of my favorite albums still. It's just unfortunately it didn't get the publicity it should, but it came out at the right time. It was just absurdly brutal and heavy. And I also think the Driven to Conquer album was very influential too, because
Hmm.
that really showed people that you could put a hardcore sensibility into death metal and get away with it. And so I think that album has influenced a lot of people, and that album influenced a lot of deathcore, early deathcore.
Death course.
Yeah, I talked to some deathcore bands, and they're older deathcore bands, not newer ones, but older ones, and Driven to Conquer was very influential for them.
Hmm.
So I think those two are super influential. And then there's, from as far as
Hmm.
my influences don't really run in the death metal realm. They run in the classic rock realm, Black Sabbath and things like that. Of course, classic bands like Morbid Angel, Suffocation, and all that stuff have influence on me, but not as much as you'd think,
Okay.
which I think also helps us stand out a little bit.
Okay, okay, I understand for this, Chris. Well, Chris, thank you very much for this interview. It was a
Thank you.
tremendous pleasure for the second time I speak with you, but now we spoke about this last album. It was a tremendous pleasure. And congratulations on this new one, great one. Perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect someday a full Latin American tour, who knows? And obviously Metallica followers.
I would love to be able to get down to Latin America, Mexico, Peru, anywhere, and do a little run there. I got a lot of instant messages from people in Latin America and South America. So I feel like I know the people. I want to dive into the culture and embrace the culture and enjoy the culture and appreciate the culture. So I have lasting memories all my life of the different cultures that I've gotten to experience. And well, hopefully it'll happen. And eternal thanks to all our fans below the border.